everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, and we are back with another Twitter thread. We just watched that clip of Elon Musk where he tells the people who were advertising on Twitter to go F themselves. So I'm confident that we've got maybe 4 Twitter threads left. Anyway, today we're talking about cards that seemed okay, but turned out they were busted. As I've said in the tweet, sometimes Yu-Gi-Oh cards are clearly broken. Things like Kit Kalos and Arise Heart and VFD are printed to be powerful. You can read it in their text. But sometimes cards with kind of weird utility effects end up causing more damage than the aforementioned ones. And I'm going to begin with this one, Linkross. This card came out in a set that had like 4 other cards that independently ruined the format. Linkross was a staple in a significant amount of decks, mostly because of its interactions with Martial Metal Marcher. Frequently, what you would do is use Halqifibrax to get an O-Lion, and then link off the Halqifibrax for a Linkross, and then summon 2 tokens, and then the O-Lion and a token, a Martial Metal Marcher for the token, and then bring back the O-Lion, and then you have a million stars worth of material that you could use for any number of powerful Link plays. So let's see what you all have below. Farfa has a really interesting one. You all might not believe this because you were all born in 2015, especially you, Dyer. But when Soul Charge was first revealed, people immediately expected it was all right. Now keep in mind, this was a time before like everyone was playing a deck that just shat out as many Xyz monsters as possible as early as possible. In fact, early decks immediately after the release of Soul Charge are playing like maybe 1 or 2 copies. It sucks to draw 2 of them and you can't even attack. What if you're behind and you can't pay life points? Pretty soon people figured out that you should be maxing out on this card and playing it in every single deck. Despite this, still took until about 2019 for them to finally pull the trigger. Okay, so when Arcand replied with this, it really set my mind at ease. I don't think they expected Magical Scientist was going to be good. And for what it's worth, this card isn't really that good in a vacuum, especially in early Yu-Gi-Oh! When like, oh, you win combat but can't win, isn't a convincing push. Yeah, when Magical Scientist released, he was a common. Last Will was a common. I don't think anyone put 2 and 2 together over there. Swag Kage says, fuck Cecil format. Correct. This card was around before then. Like that stupid Buster Blader deck occasionally used this card, even though it wasn't very good in it. But God, Union Carrier. This card single-handedly destroyed NR for about 2 months before it got banned. It's so insanely busted for no good reason in any slower format, and it wasn't even used in Try and Springgan. Just everyone ran it in a trap format where the best spell trap removal is MST. Correct. Decisive Battle of Golconda will destroy any format in which it is allowed to be played because those formats are usually lower power. It just prevents anything from being destroyed by battle or card effect and lets you plus anytime anyone attempts it. The amount of board control this allows is insane, but at the time it was printed, there were next to no monsters you could safely leave out alone, and it was considered jank for years. Correct. But I have to warn you, I knew someone who had cracked this card. Gavin's dad used to do this thing where he would just like read every card in the bulk and try and figure out like synergies that went undiscovered, and figured out this card was broken, I think like in Frognark back in like 2009. So now you know where he gets it. This card in Infernoble was extremely annoying, but there's one a little further down that I want to explore even more than this one. I Wish I Was Dead has the follow-up tweet to Dyer's about Smoke Grenade of the Thief. Yes, Power Tool Braver Dragon seems unassuming at first. Like, Isolde already does something similar. Why would it be broken? Well, in the OCG, you use it to equip Smoke Grenade of the Thief and Rod of Silence KS, which says negate other spell effects that target the equipped monster and destroy those spell cards. KS would also get you 2 hand rips because you could use Baron de Fleur to tag into it. Siberian says, from what I remember when they were first previewed, the bulk of the conversation was about splashing them in other decks. Very few people were thinking about playing them all together as their own strategy. It did not play out like that. I do like their follow-up post. Considering they debuted at Rare, my pet theory is that Konami also didn't see them coming. It was cool to remember people saying things like, oh, Blaster's a nice piece of removal for that new Battle and Boxer deck. Who would have thought that a non-once per turn special summon from the graveyard plus Book of Moon was problematic, especially when sent by Shooting Riser or Curious on command? Shooting Riser? Oh, no, wait, no, yeah, Shooting Riser. This was far from the most problematic card where it was legal both times, but I'm glad Snow's time has gone. Isn't Snow a common on first print? They were like, oh yeah, the fairy tale archetype where we remake the little fairy tale girls. You'd think this card only works in a dedicated Mystic Mind stun strategy, but this card is just good in general. Yeah, on release, people were like, the card enables a really toxic deck. It's not like everyone's going to play it, though. Hardleg Joe's got a great one, the Tyrant Neptune. Hardleg says, I used to collect these. I thought they had potential. No one else seemed to think so. I got a whole bunch out of bulk bins for pennies. Years later, it ended up being used into a combo so powerful and degenerate that the TCG banned it before the other half was even legal. That is correct. Lyrilisc Independent Nightingale is a fusion monster you could summon off of instant fusion and then immediately use as material to tribute for the Tyrant Neptune. Because that card checks the stars on the monster that is currently activating the effect, this card really FTK'd like nobody's business. And for what it's worth, this combo is really searchable. There's a rank 4, King of the Fairolymps, some of you may remember from Prague watch-alongs, that gets us out like nobody's business. Notably, in the Masochist Banlist tournament, we usually try and release as many cards as possible, but I think this card has never been one of the cards we've released. Scarlin's correct. It didn't destroy a format by itself, already engaging in branded apologia. Well, she's on brand, if nothing else. But this was a bulk common that read as Total Liquid Ass. On release, it was barely played. It saw sparse use with Ido, then one person topped an MCS with Puppet, and it spread quickly and became a main win condition in the TCG. I don't think it was an MCS. Yeah, upon release, Branded Expulsion was kind of expected to be another one of those pack filler lore cards. Then some people started trying out, I think it was Ra's Disciple, and then later Ido. It really took like months before it was like, no, this is your main win condition. Yo, what's up, guys? Lithium here. We're gonna begin with Grinder Golem. Who would have thought this random GX anime guy would suddenly appear in 2018 to turn your hand traps off and the open enough hand traps to be killed into the sun format? It was so frustrating. People were scraping the bottom of the barrel to play around hand traps during that format. I remember Goki pilots playing Exchange, but Neospace Aqua Dolphin being consistently part of your setup combo was so annoying. Recent example, broken is an exaggeration, but this little common doggy that no one but Coder cared about created a tier 1 deck out of something barely scraping rogue, and Coder didn't care about this either. Famously said he didn't want to play the new Unchained cards because he thought they were bad and they didn't do anything the deck wanted. Unchained went almost completely undiscovered by the OCG, where it was like fine, but not really innovated to the level that it has been in the TCG. Now it's the best deck. Like it's hard to explain that on Dune release, these cards were incredible, available, and almost no one wanted them. A great one out of Spence. This is the connection between two obviously broken cards, Scythe and Hulk, that might not have fucked up pre-Pote otherwise. So first week of DPE release, I played in an LCS and got 17th during the last subathon. And one of the reasons I got 17th was I lost in Swiss to Triff. I got him to a point where he couldn't do anything with his board, and he ended on Hauka Fibrax with one card set. And I thought, oh, I've won. Only for him to activate Hauka Fibrax, tag out to Wonder Magician, and pop a Scythe, at which point I went, oh no, everyone can do that. And everyone did that. Starting off as basically unplayable, this card became super annoying as time went on, especially with the release of cards that say two fuckos that share a zip code and favorite indie film. Correct. Super polymerization, really frustrating anytime that it's legal and viable, like we have right now with 5-card Blowjob Brother Suite in the extra, but this card originally at release was terrible. There's just nothing to do with it. Based on this thread, I think we can cut Konami some slack when they print cards that turn out to be huge design mistakes. As we've learned over the course of this thread, sometimes the players miss them too. Henry Kissinger, a respected American scholar and statesman, died today in his home in Connecticut. Oh, I feel like the music is like really undercutting this solemn moment, but I have no way to turn it off. I'm so sorry. It's just the Mimi background theme. Oh God.